You are listening to The Black Landscape with Andrea Spearman, where Black excellence is always trending. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Andrea Spearman, and this is The Black Landscape, Best of the Bay award-winning podcast, where we engage with emerging and established Black leaders here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to leave a review of the show on Apple Podcasts or in the comments of our social media. So hey y'all, this is Andrea. I'm a light-skinned Black woman with dark brown curly hair that's down and framing my face today. I'm wearing my black and brown glasses and a purple t-shirt. And today we're here with our special guest, Courtney Jones. Woo!
Hey.
Hey, Courtney.
Hello.
Please describe yourself to the people.
Yes, I am a dark-skinned Black woman with a TWA. If you don't know what that is, it's a teeny-weeny afro with a little part to the right. And then I am wearing some emerald green glasses, and I have on some earrings I made, 2 pairs of earrings I made, wrapped in African print with puka shells. Hey, and then just some gold chain earrings, a black turtleneck, and a gold necklace.
Courtney's fancy for us today. Y'all can't see it, but she's looking great.
Why, thank you. Much appreciated. You know, this is just waking up and putting on some clothes, baby.
You know, a black turtleneck, though, that always elevates.
I love it.
Yes. So, Courtney, you are a woman with so many talents, skills, and community engagements. But we're going to start at the very beginning. Tell us about your upbringing as a third-generation Oakland native.
Yes. So I am the daughter of Curtis and Joni Thomas. I am the youngest sister of Shane and Michelle. I am the mother of Kayla Imani Jones and Charlize Danae Jones. And I am the granddaughter of the great and amazing community organizer, Lillian Wilson and Douglas F. Wilson and Tommy Thomas Sr., as well as Etta Lee Thomas. I name those because it's important to name where I came from. I grew up in East Oakland. And when I say East Oakland, not too far, a couple blocks from Seminary. Hey!
East Oakland, oh mama.
Yes, East Oakland all day. And I grew up in that hyphy area, so baby. I'm blessed to come from a 2-parent household. But in my neighborhood that I grew up with, I was an anomaly. There were not a lot of people who had a 2-parent household, and they reminded me. I grew up in a neighborhood in East Oakland where it was kids. We was playing out in the streets, and we was deep out here in these streets. But I didn't go to the schools in my neighborhood. I went to predominantly white schools in the Oakland Hills. And so it's interesting because I believe that experience has really shaped who I am. My family has always talked about the importance of giving back to your community, talking about the little privileges that we have, even that, you know, where we were living, we could afford to live there, yet where I went to school, it was very clear that, you know, there was a sense of othering. In my neighborhood, I was called the white girl of the hood. I played tennis. I'll tell you about that in a moment, though. And then in school, those children reminded me that I was Black. And not only did they remind me I was Black, they reminded me that I was dark Black. And kids is mean. Them little kids was me, girl. They was calling me tar baby. They would tell me, they would turn off the light and be like, where's she at? Like, so, but having both of those experiences. Kids is mean. Really kind of shaped who I was. At a young age, at 8, my mother put me in an after-school program run by Terry Stewart at Mosswood Park. Big ups to Terry, town legend around here with this tennis thing. But he said that I had a gift. And so I ended up playing competitive tennis starting at a very young age. And so that kind of really shaped who I was. During the day, I would go to these predominantly white schools and, kind of struggle through there. And then after school, I'd be at tennis. It wasn't until high school.
Yeah. Love tennis.
Okay, so quick thing about tennis is when I was younger, I actually got the opportunity to rally and play against Venus and Serena before they became big.
Ooh.
Yeah, so my coach, Terry Stewart, he knew their father and they had come up to East Oakland and we played on the course on 98th. And anybody who know about the course on baby. Okay, so yeah, we talking about it. We getting real right now. And it was in the 90s. And so I'm aging myself, but I didn't even realize at the time. We just was like, y'all look like us. We, what?
Mm-hmm.
Going where? Okay. But it was really an opportunity then to play against them. They were even great then. I got a couple, I did my thing with them too. But
Of course.
right. And so just really having that experience at a young age. And then in high school, I went to Oakland High, which was different from the feeder schools, and just having the opportunity to like find myself and figure out who am I? Who are my friends? I got on the tennis team. And again, I was it's so funny. I still look back at that picture. It was, the school was fairly Asian. And so it was all Asians, and then me. And I joke with people. There was another girl, Nicole. I can't remember. She was a woman of color as well. But I used to joke with people like, "Can you find me in this picture?" But in high school,
can you find me?
Okay, like where am I? In high school, I took number 1. I was player of the week. Like I did my thing. So competitive tennis and giving back. I volunteered every summer to teach youth how to play tennis, and so really giving back to my community was a part of something growing up. The moment I knew I wasn't going to go to a 4-year college. My sisters, okay, my parents pressed education, but baby, they was old by it. I got a whole like birth story. We're not going to go into that, but my parents were old by the time they had me. Shout out to my mom and daddy.
Bless
and so I had a lot, I had a lot of lenience. I have 2 older sisters, yet I was almost raised like an only child. My sister, who's 6 years older, she dipped off to college at a very young age. She was like 16. She was gone.
Oh.
Yeah. And so like education was a big thing. Both of my sisters are very highly educated. And then you got me like, I'm going to do my thing, just working it up, a little bit of college here, and just really doing like getting into the community. So after graduating from high school, had a job. I was working my little job, volunteering in the community. And then I realized like, I want to do more. I can see, like, I look back in my neighborhood and what people were doing, and it was really sad. Like, a lot of people had lost their lives due to systemic violence. People were locked up. I had gotten into my own trouble in my early 20s. I fell into that trap, and almost like a badge of honor of like, doing some things you probably shouldn't have. And so it was all of those life lessons where I was like, even though I kept a 9 to 5, I was, I'm out here living life, right?
Mm-hmm. In these streets, like 20 somethings be.
Hey, like we got into a little trouble, and it was hard because my parents educated my sister. They like, what are you doing? You came from a tooth, all those stereotypical things, right? And here I am, wilding out, going dumb, all the things. But I realized that I needed that experience in my life to shape me to the woman that I am today. Because I realized, like, okay, that ain't the life for me. Like, I ain't trying to do that again, right? So, like, even though I kept the job, and shout out to Patricia Thomas. I don't even know if she remembered me, but when I was going through some things, she came down to the courts and she was like, she's a good worker. Let's figure something out. So it allowed me to even go through my troubles and still work. And it showed me that there are good people who give back. And so I committed. And so after I've handled my situation and circumstances, I worked a job. I stepped out of them streets. I doubled down on my community service. And so, yeah, and that's kind of made me who I am right now.
I love it.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. I've talked to so many guests on the show, and that's kind of been the thread of folks who were like born and raised here in Oakland. Mm-hmm. They're like, that hyphy life took me over for a minute, but I had to I had to come on back. Like out of the streets like that. I said, because a lot of our people didn't make it. So it's always a rejoicing moment, and grateful to have that moment to shape you and then turn it into good work and community.
Yep, definitely. I do not forget where I came from at all. Like, anybody who know me, they know I'm from East Oakland all day, every day, twice on Sunday. You better say that again. Hey, but I also know how to present myself when I need to.
Exactly. You definitely do, because you've been on like PTAs, equity and inclusion committees, served on so many boards for community-based organizations. And it sounds like parents' influence has really led you down this road, but like combining that with being in them streets, coming back, seeing where it leads, having this kind of education, holistic family life to kind of bring you back Do you think that's been part of what's shaped you to be an advocate for social justice?
Absolutely. I credit it all to my parents. My mother always at the dinner table, we always had talked about the plight of Black Americans and what we can do and utilizing the benefits that we have to give back to our community. And so even from a young age, we talked about that. And once I had the opportunity, I had children. And so my mother also put me, one thing that I shout out to Joni is that she put me in all these activities. I was a Girl Scout when I was younger. And it allowed me as a Girl Scout to do things that I know my mama wasn't ever going to do. For example, skiing. Girl,
Bless you. I still ain't.
Okay, so my mother made sure that I was in Girl Scouts and activities that allowed me opportunities that she knew that wasn't necessarily her wheelhouse. And I know that even as busy as my mother was, like I looked up to her as being like this corporate woman. The way that I dress today is because in the morning I would see my mama dressing like, her little suits. And she worked in a predominantly white institution. She had her a piece of Blackness every day. And so she would talk about like how her work, would really affect and make changes for people in the community. And so the way that I look at things, life, everything is how can I use a little privilege that I have to make a change. And so once I had children, I jumped full force. Like I wanted to combat a lot of those stereotypical ideas about Black mothers, how we roll out of bed and just drop our kids off at school. We don't care about our children's education. Like that's not true. And
not at all.
Not at all. I started from my oldest in kindergarten. I volunteered, both of them, both my children in kindergarten. I volunteered once a week in their classroom and I would go to work right after. And so here I am. I worked for a managed medical health plan in a, some seniority position. I started off there in the mailroom and worked my way up to like a senior director. But, I'm dressed professionally. And my children go to a predominantly white, or they went to a predominantly white elementary school. I volunteered every week. Every single week, those kids knew my name. And once they got out of kindergarten, I volunteered in the office. Then I realized that my experience as a Black woman on this campus in Oakland is not the same as my white counterparts. And so I began to ask questions about that. I had a few missteps with people othering me in a very open and unapologetic way. And I realized that I needed to make a change. And I started to talk to other folks of color at the school and was like, y'all experiencing this? Oh yeah, you too? Okay, so let's have a conversation. I went to a PTA board and I was like, this is where it's at, right? School is raising $800,000 for it's a public school. Our PTA raises upwards of $800,000 to pay for teachers and music classes and all of these things. But our children of color were always falling behind. Why is that? Why are we not providing resources for the children of color? Like there's only 1 to 2 in the classroom. How are they always below the education line? And so I helped to found the Equity and Inclusion Committee on our PTA board. I also realized that they wasn't hearing me in the way that they should. And so I went for PTA president. That way you have to hear me. You have to understand. And you have to hear what I have to say. And so I rocked. And let me tell you, I thought working at PTA president in a predominantly white elementary school where they give upwards of $800,000 with some of the most racist experiences in my life. Oh, then I worked at the museum. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. I get it. But I made a lot of positive changes there at that elementary school. I also there realized that there was a lack of people of color in power that these children could see, right? And so I was like, let's run a Girl Scout troop. Let's start. I was a Girl Scout. My daughters were interested in it. I was like, let's give it a try. Funny enough, shout out to Becky. She reached out to me. It's like how God be just connecting folks. Becky reached out to me and was like, hey, I saw you speak at a back to school night. I would like to grow. She had no idea about my experience as a Girl Scout and wanted to see if I was interested in starting a troop with her. We are like ebony and ivory. Her name is Becky, like that in general, right? She is one of my
with the good hair.
Yeah, baby. She is my sister. She is one of my closest friends because we have these uncomfortable conversations. Anyone who knows me knows that Courtney is unapologetically Black. I'm going to talk about the plight of Black America and what we can do better. But yet she was open, even this before 2020. You know what I mean? We created this Girl Scout troop. We thought it was going to be 8 people. We did an opening. We advertised. We had laid out 8 chairs and it was storming that day. All of a sudden, they started coming in droves, 45 people on a Wednesday in a storm to hear about this Girl Scout troop.
Wow.
That's how we started. 45, and that's the smallest we've ever been. That was 8 years ago.
I'm blown away by that.
We've created like a small business. We have other leaders that have stepped up. It's really amazing. We've gone having huge Girl Scout trips, huge camp outs. I go camping. I got a whole camping. I am ready. It's a little glamping because we got air mattresses. Because you know what I ain't gonna do is sleep
Right.
on the ground.
On the ground. Not with my back, my sciatica.
Honey, I got a lamp in there. We got a rug. You got to take your shoes off before we come in. We got a table.
Come on.
But we do this, and I have opportunities, and we really shape it around environmental and racial justice. Part of that is I sit on boards, community-based organizations that do good work. They address housing insecurities in the Bay Area. There are small boards that are creating opportunities for our unhoused brothers and sisters and people. I'm a commissioner for the Oakland Sugar-Sweetened Beverages Community Advisory Board. It was the Measure HH tax and really thinking about ways to bring Oaklanders to drink water and look at their health. And so I'm a full-time mom. I'm a full-time caregiver. I have my children 50% of the time, but still, even when they're not here, I'm still a mom. I'm a full-time employee. I'm a volunteer. And somehow I figure out a way to do it all. And I ain't crazy, and I still get dressed in the morning. It's because my value is about my community. At the end of the day, I want to be, when people think of my name, if they know who I am, I want them to be like, she did some good work. She really tried to make a better change for her community.
I love that. And right now, we're going to take a short break to catch up on the previous episodes of The Black Landscape. Download on Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprout, and Google Podcasts. When we come back, we will hear more from Courtney Jones. We're back with Courtney Jones. Now, Courtney, you shared with me that you are running for Alameda County Board of Supervisors in District 4, 2024. What's your campaign stance? How's it going? What's happening?
Whoa, okay. So let's talk about it. Let me just name that I decided to do this because of all my community service work, because I realized that there are gaps in the system that for access. And my job and career is around diversity and inclusion. I went through a program called Emerge California that taught women how to run for office. And shout out to Kimberly Ellis. She talked about the importance of being in a position of power is to gain money, to give, to provide resources. Yes. And that's something that stuck with me. And I saw that happen when I was PTA president. And so I was like, I need to educate the residents about a position. And so I did a lot of research to understand I could definitely have run for city council in my area, right? But when I thought about it and thought about my own individual experiences and the companies and organizations that I work with and everything that I do in my life, I realized that the Alameda County Board of Supervisors is this kind of like untouchable thing that kind of sits, I look at it like sitting on a hill that no one talks about. They have a $3.4 billion budget that all of us Alameda County residents are paying into. Yet when I began to do listening sessions and ask folks, so do you know about your board of supervisor? Do you know who that person is? Do you know about the budget? Do you know the programs that they oversee? A lot of people were like, yeah, I don't know who that is. Or, oh, I know that name. I'll vote for them. There's no term limits. Most of these individuals have been in office for decades, and unfortunately, there have been individuals our board has passed away. And that's kind of when those positions become open. So I decided, as I looked at the position, understood what it does, that I wanted to run an educational campaign. I want to educate the residents of Alameda County about, let's talk about this $3.6 billion budget, that the Board of Supervisors oversees 14 county departments, including our probation department, our public education, that's just in our public defender's office. And that's just to name a few. They have no term limits. And a lot of them have been in office for decades. It's time to really talk about how this money is being spent, where it's going, who's receiving it. If one lives in an unincorporated community, their governance is our Board of Supervisors. And so that's my goal in running for office, is to really be able to educate the residents about what they do, the services and programs that they oversee, and the governance as it relates to our unincorporated communities. I'm interested in being a new and fresh face to really talk about some of these. We all have used those services in some shape, form, or fashion of those 14 county departments, or we know someone who has used those services. Yet most people don't even know how that money is being spent. And so my goal is to really have an open conversation about what this position is, where this money is going, how we have certain amounts of dollars still sitting in budget lines that are becoming unused. I'd love for us to get really creative around what are the barriers to access to this money. I know that there are RFP, requests for proposal barriers, all of the time, where smaller community-based organizations are unable to obtain these fees, yet they're doing amazing work out here in their community. So let's have these conversations. Let's talk about, how we can get creative with maybe changing or updating our RFP process to ensure that everyone has access to provide services. Let's talk about where these services are going. Let's hear from the community to talk about the needs. It's not a one size fits all process. And so I realize that the needs of an unincorporated community like Castro Valley are not the same needs of areas like my neighborhood in East Oakland, and really educating folks about what that means, talking about how we can be creative in providing resources, and then really listening and hearing from the community about what they need as opposed to making decisions on their behalf.
Yeah, because there, as you said, there's a lot of folks doing the work already in the community, and they have no idea what you mean when you say RFP. They like, huh? LOI, what?
Exactly.
MOU, like,
what are these things?
What are these acronyms? Right? What's
how are we, as how's the governmental body providing resources and educating individuals about these things, like having conversations? Is there a dictionary or the translation of nomenclature that's utilized for these things? Can we be upfront about what's needed in order for one to process? A lot of these smaller organizations are volunteers, people who have full-time jobs but are committed to doing something or making a change. And so they're doing this work, on their free time. They don't have a grant writer. They may not even know how to write a grant. You know what I mean? And so really engaging these people, we're a breath away from the largest technology hub in the United States. Yet, how are we utilizing those opportunities? How are we coordinating and partnering with these organizations to provide resources and access to our community to be able to address the needs directly? I feel like there's so much that can be done. And I don't believe in just standing up and saying, vote for Courtney Jones because I'm the best candidate. No. Let's talk about the position. And let me tell you about my history and my background. And then you can decide. I know that I'm the best candidate, but then you can decide if I'm the best candidate or if there's someone else out there who you think is a better candidate, because you now know and understand what the position entails and what happens with, or at least a high level understanding of what's happening with this budget and where money is being spent.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing more of these info sessions and community conversations. And as you said, a lot of these folks are putting in volunteer hours. So it's like they're already putting in volunteer hours to do the thing that they're doing. Now you want them to come to an info session in the middle of the day at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock, which always confuses me. Confucius,
Right.
bewilderment. Like, I know people got jobs, right?
And so it's the disconnect for me, right? I think that there is a disconnect in understanding. And I think that not only is there a disconnect in understanding maybe how people can get access or the barriers that people come across, but I also think that there's a lack of opportunity and engagement because of the not regular use of technology, right? If there were opportunities, so the work that I work for the Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco, which is the DeYoung Museum in Golden Gate Park and the Legion of Honor in Lincoln Park. and I am their inaugural Associate Director of Diversity and Inclusion. And I talk about really planting the seeds and creating opportunities for engagement. When I do trainings, I create workbooks, opportunities, I record things for staff who missed it so that they can go back and there's something tangible for people to be able to utilize in the future. And so I use so many different opportunities to keep people engaged and so that people can come back. And I just feel like if our governmental agencies did that same thing of finding ways, if you have to do it at noon on a Tuesday, record it, provide a toolkit, provide like all of the resources one may need so that they can go back, give an email so that folks can send questions that they may have info sessions on Saturday mornings. Go to these different community fairs and have a session set up where people can come and drop in, have office hours. There are so many different ways. We are in 2023. There are so many different ways to communicate. Zoom, Slack, GChat, Gmail. I mean, there are so many opportunities for engagement. And I just feel like there are missed opportunities for leadership to really engage with the community in an impactful, intentional, and meaningful way.
Agree. 3 times over.
And so when I think about, I have to be honest, I present very well. My job is around like public speaking. I am engaging. I've taken a lot of training around being able to be a good facilitator. And if I have to say something, like one thing I'm good at, I can say that I present well, I'm engaging. But I'm actually an introvert. If it was up to me, I'd sit in the background and never talk to people. And I say that because running for office, any position, it is a Herculean task. To put yourself out there to the world, to be judged, right, wrong, or indifferent is not easy. And it was something that I thought about really hard. And I knew going into this that I wasn't going to do it in the way that typical politicians do it. I'm going to be 100% authentic to myself. And I know that because of that, people have told me that, oh, you're going to have to cross all these barriers. And when I think about why I'm doing this, and when I think about, why I'm putting myself, I am opening myself up to all of these people in Alameda County. And let me tell you, that definitely gives me very the sense of uncomfort in my belly. But I realize that I've been chosen to be the vessel to speak for the people, and that I am standing on the shoulders of those who have come before me. My ancestors are speaking to me and through me. And so even if I wanted to say that this is not, I don't want to do this, at the world, my community, my people are telling me to do this. I remember when the seed was planted in 2019, after I was finishing up my whole PTA President reign, and the principal of the school said to me, Courtney, when you run for office, I'll vote for you. And I remember saying to her, girl, you crazy. Ain't nobody ever gonna do that. I was like, that's hilarious. I don't even know why you would say that. And we joked about it in my little friend circle. And then people continued to plant the seed. A parent was talking, I'm thinking about a new job. And she came in talking about a merge. And I was like, girl, this is not what we were talking about. And she was like, no, you should consider it. I think it was great, right? So all of these little seeds were planted. I get accepted into the program. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, I saw the people who else these are PhD. There's people who have already run, imposter syndrome came in. The first weekend, I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then I heard Kimberly Ellis speak. And it just was I feel like God was like, baby, and I was like, okay.
No, this is you.
But yeah, you tapped me on the shoulder. And even though I'm scared, I tell my daughters all the time. My baby said it to me the other day, Mommy, but you can do hard things. Because I tell them we can do hard things. And sometimes we have to do things scared. And so no matter how scared I am, no matter how hard this may seem, it's not about me at all. It has nothing to do with Courtney Jones. Everything that I'm doing, the whole purpose of me running for this position is because I want to provide resources to my community. I want to give back in a real way. And I'm just a little Black girl who grew up in East Oakland and got caught up in the hyphy movement for a minute and pulled herself out and is trying to give back to my community. I am not like any other candidate. My win is the fact that I'm doing this. If I get more than 5 votes, which is my family, I win. The Girl Scouts will show me that they see me doing this work. I have won. The fact that my name will be on a ballot and I could take a picture and my great grandkids will know that I tried.
Yes.
Won. And so it doesn't matter if I'm actually elected, because it's how I define win, and I have won right now.
Yes. And I was just saying the other day, sometimes Black excellence is in the attempt.
That's it. That's it. Because you know what? It may be somebody who feels the same way, who sees me and was like, look at her. She done put it out there. She done risked herself. She is putting herself in a vulnerable position. If she can do it, I can too. And you know what? That's a win. For my daughters to see that their mother has taken a risk, right, wrong, indifferent. Their mother has put themselves out there. I've won. I am setting examples for others. This is it. All the work I'm doing now, I feel like I have won. I am so thankful and grateful just for everything, for the opportunity to even be here, the opportunity to give back, the opportunity to even run for office. All of this, I feel so in debt to my community. It is such a value. I don't know why, but it is.
Oh, it definitely is. Risk takers like yourself are of high value in the community. More of you is what we need.
Thank you. I think that people can make changes in little ways. I didn't start off doing, and it's so funny is because I know that I'm hard. Everyone's harder on themselves than everyone else. I've gone through a lot. People talked about me when I was young. They say some of the worst things. Doing this work in diversity, white folks can get upset. They get aggression comes out, cognitive dissonance. So at this point, I feel like I don't really care. I have no feelings, not a lot in there. So you really can't hurt my feelings. You can say what you say. I'm standing on my value and my truth. And so I'm good. Like I know my value. I'm running for office because I actually care. People can say what they want. Slander my name if you want to. I'm still doing this because of the community. It has nothing to do with my ego. It has nothing to do with, I don't even want to be like, big. I don't want to be walking down the street and people be like, Courtney. That makes me nervous. Gives me anxiety. But I'm going to do this. Like, if that happens, we going to do it. I'll be like, hey, girl. Hey, how you doing? Like, because I care. And I think that makes me stand out, not only from the incumbent in office, but anyone else who may be in the race, thinking about running, all of it. It's only one Courtney, baby. And can't nobody do Courtney like Courtney could do Courtney.
Yes. Courtney Jones, 2024.
Hey.
It's been so great talking to you and get to know you a little bit better. Please tell the audience where they can find you.
Definitely. So you can always find me at the DeYoung Museum, but more on my socials. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm working. I'm not a big social media fan, but I do want to shout out my social. You're gonna see me all over. You'll see my campaign information coming up soon. My IG is Courtney J _ day. That's the Oakland in me, baby.
Come on, all day.
All day. So you can definitely hit me up on my IG. I think that's the best way. I also have a Facebook, Courtney Jones. You can hit me there and then look for me, look for campaign parties, canvassing, and all of those coming to a neighborhood near you, because we're going to run this. It's Courtney Jones for Supervisor District 4 2024.
Woo woo. Yeah.
Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to really just, have a conversation and kiki with you and talk about me and the things that I'm passionate about and my values here as a third generation Oaklander.
Yes. Thank you, so much for joining me today. And y'all, Courtney's links will be in our show notes. And I just want to, again, thank all of you out there for listening and supporting another season. Again, leave a review of the show on Apple Podcasts or in the comments of our social media. I do be checking it every day. So get in there. This has been another episode of The Black Landscape with Andrea Spearman, where Black excellence is always trending.